This is Mr. Smith, and this is day one of Government Unit 6. We'll be starting it as part of a 4-day unit because of the short week that's going to be occurring. The bell ringer, what do you know about politics in America? That can be typed in the chat. Complete the unit reading and make a copy. Type main points on the right, one per paragraph, thoughts, comments, and questions in the margin, one per section. And so if we go here, we can see it. Government 6 reading. If we click on this, you should come up with a prompt for you to make a copy. Please do so. See your points, go over here underneath each of these sections. Make sure you only read these sections in the textbook, and the comments go on the left-hand side. But if we go to the notes, see I changed it so that people can have a more organized copy. Day 1, there's day 2, and so on. You can also type in the topic right up here, and then the summary at the end. So using that, let's look at the first day of the notes. First of all, political parties. We've always had a division of people into different ideological thoughts. During the pre-war for independence, for instance, loyalists wanted to stay with England, patriots wanted to revolt, and those neutral did not want to take a side. When we were writing the Constitution, there were those that supported it, known as Federalists, and those that wanted a decentralized state-based government, the Anti-Federalists. And then during the early Republic, the Federalists continued to exist, and they believed that the Constitution should be interpreted loosely, and they were mostly led by Alexander Hamilton, John Marshall, and George Washington claimed to be neutral, but he did favor them more often. And then there were the opposite, the Democratic Republicans. They believed the Constitution should be followed literally or strictly. They were led by Thomas Jefferson, and he also believed the common man should have certain rights, although what fit into the category of common man was still incredibly restricted. The Federalists would eventually lose elections to Jefferson, and they would oppose the War of 1812, which made them look unpatriotic and traitorous. And so eventually the party ceased to exist. So then we entered a period of time when we only had one political party, the Democratic Republicans. Because everybody thought it would be peaceful and everyone would agree with each other, it was known as the era of good feelings. But when there's only one party, you end up with too many people with too many opinions. So in 1824, too many people from the Democratic Party, the Democratic Republican Party, ran for president, splitting the electoral vote. So the Speaker of the House, Henry Clay, convinced the House to give the electors to John Quincy Adams instead. Jackson's supporters were mad because he actually got more people to vote for him in the public, even though he himself, once again, did not get an electoral majority. So eventually he split off and formed the Democrats. Adams supporters eventually became the Whigs. Jackson would win in 1828, mostly because he took up Jefferson's plate of supporting the common man, but he also built a party machine, which would organize in all the major cities, which would hire people to promote the party, and that would distribute propaganda like pamphlets, for instance. But the issue of slavery continued to separate people. The Whigs ended up supporting nationalism, building large infrastructure projects like roads and canals, but they were still divided over slavery. The party would eventually split between North and South, and Northern abolitionists would eventually join with a third, smaller party known as the Free Soil Party to make the Republicans. They would oppose the spread of slavery. They were able to win an election in 1860 by choosing Abraham Lincoln as their nominee for president. Democrats continued to be weakened until the 1930s over issues of slavery and segregation and other things to follow. Eventually, Republicans became dominant in the West and North, while the Democrats were dominant in the South. And whenever your party has a monopoly, basically no competition, you have no encouragement to improve. And so because of that, many people looked at politics as stymied, as stagnant. It wasn't going anywhere or doing anything. So they turned to smaller parties like socialists and populists, which worked in favor of workers' rights and opportunities for the poor. Democrats and Republicans would get worried about losing seats to socialists and populists. They ended up taking some of these liberal ideas for their own, and that included things like prohibition with the 18th Amendment, the women's suffrage with the 19th Amendment, labor unions and labor rights, and also conservation of the environment. There also included some other things like the 17th Amendment, which allowed for the direct election of senators, because it was believed the states choosing them just led to corruption. And it also included the 16th Amendment, which established the income tax, which would help pay for some of these programs that would help other people. Let's go ahead and pause there for today. And then for the rest of the period, of course, you will work on the political ID activity. So click on the link and then click on the question marks next to each item for more information. You can read to see if you agree with the description that you're giving once you take this political quiz. This doesn't count as a quiz grade, it just counts as a participation grade. So if you go to the political ID and then click on the link, see this quiz, and then you'll go down through and answer the questions, and there you can see the question marks, so you can actually read a little bit more about each of these categories. And this will help determine what type of person you might be politically. Now all you have to do when you're done is click submit, and then why do you agree or disagree with the results of the quiz in 2 to 3 sentences.